And hey guys, welcome back to the channel, back with the Wandering Mariner. So it is Sunday night. Tonight's video, we are doing a whole video topic about nothing but what do you pack in your sea bag? And you know, the days of mariners needing sea bags because everything was in a small coffin locker, those days are kind of gone. And nowadays you have a little bit more room. If you're with Military Sea Lift Command, you probably have a lot more room than what you would with maybe a boat with SIU. But I'm going to go through just a list of the things that I use personally, and you guys could add or delete anything along these lines that you think might be pertinent. And also, if you're already sailing, leave your comments below, because little things that I miss might be advantageous for somebody else to add, or things that they always bring along. But starting it out is a good suitcase. So if you're going to be carrying all your material, I don't know how many suitcases I've gone through the years of broken wheels, broken handles, broken this, that, and the other. So the latest I got, I'm going to grab my bag right here. But this is, I think it's High Sierra. Yeah, it's High Sierra. And the reason why I love this bag is it does kind of condense down and fold up. So I could always slide it into small, tight spaces after I got on board the ship and was able to get my stuff. I liked it because it had, I could use it like a duffel bag, like this. Plus I had the wheels and an extension. And another great part is when I get to the ship, sometimes you got to go up lots of ladders or carry. This bag also has some pull-out backpack straps, which I just love. So this has been my go-to bag. I got a pair of them, and I love this suitcase. Now, you don't have to go with this kind of brand or anything, but I just wanted to kind of point out what I use. But I think a good suitcase is paramount when you're doing all this travel and whatnot overseas. Continuing with the bags, I usually bring two backpacks. I bring one that carries old Bessie here, my laptop, because I want to make sure that I have that with me, and that's like my VIP bag. It can carry all my stuff for travel. It's a little bit bigger, but I always think about what would happen if I lose my luggage. And that has happened. I've showed up on ships where I was catching a ship overseas and my suitcase didn't make it. And all I had was that backpack, and I was wearing coveralls for like a month because I didn't have the rest of my material and stuff. So it's really important that I carry one carry-on with a change of clothes for a day or two, plus my laptop and all my electronics and my important documents and whatnot. I carry another backpack just for shoreside time. So if I'm going to go to the beach or whatever else, and I don't need this fancier backpack that carries my laptop and everything, I have a smaller backpack that I just use to get off the boat for the day, just to carry some small stuff, which is a lot less flashier because sometimes you're in third world countries where you don't want to have a really fancy backpack and a whole lot of stuff on your back. Just a small knapsack or backpack is kind of a better idea, at least in my mind. So continuing on. Next, these things are super important when it comes to your documents. I got this little thing. It's made by Swiss Gear, but you can put your credit cards in it. You can it's got nice zip areas, and I put all my Merchant Marine credentials in there. My sea service letters, my Merchant Marine documents, my passport, all these documents. And I like it because it is a secure, nice little thing that I can put and keep handy. So when I got to go around the ship or whatever, I have it. And I have all my information in here as well, in case something was to happen and I ever lost it. But I think super important on top of that, when I'm talking about carrying your documents and making sure that you have them readily accessible, bring a very good credit card. So I'm not saying like American Express card, leave it at home. If you're going overseas, there's certain cards that work a lot better overseas, and usually Visa is the number one that's kind of everywhere for myself. So I always recommend having your credit card available. If you don't have one, talk to your credit union or bank and get a secure credit card, because you're going to want access to cash at times. And just you get into other countries, a credit card can bail you out a lot of times. Continuing on, phones. I think that having your phone and a good phone plan is super important if you're traveling. For myself, I've always gone overseas a lot, and overseas, T-Mobile has a really good international plan, which doesn't cost hardly nothing. I think it was like $20 extra a month, and it gave me access to text and access to the internet. So it was a very good thing there. So I think that's super important. Your laptop. I always take a laptop with me to the ship, and I always bring an external drive. And the reason why I bring an external drive is I have lots of music and I have lots of movies that people have shared with me over the years that I keep on this external drive because it doesn't take up the memory on my laptop that way. And I will loan my external drive out to other mariners. And by doing that, I'll swap movies with them and build my music database and everything along those lines too. So one, it's a good way to just make friends and share information amongst each other. Because when you're out there, after a while, you've seen all your movies, you've listened to all your music. If somebody's got something different that you haven't seen, a new series or something else, it's always cool to have access to that kind of stuff. So I always take an external drive. I always take an extra phone charger, because if something happens to your charger and you're stuck out there and you don't have access to, charge your phone, you're going to be in a hot mess. Also, for internet, I know a lot of mariners, and I've done it in the past, but I haven't renewed it in a while, but a Google Fi account. So I think the last time I'd signed up, I think it was like $50 a month, but it gave you internet access anywhere in the world, pretty much. So it was very accessible, and it gave you a lot of data. So the Google Fi program, I definitely give that a thumbs up. Next on the list, I'm going to talk about flashlights. So on board ship, there's many times when you need to go out on deck, maybe in times of darkness, and do something. A flashlight is the best tool to have. So making sure that you have a flashlight readily available. If you are a watchstander, you're going to be moving around the decks and whatnot, and not just any flashlight, but one that can flip to a red light. So that way you don't ruin your night vision. So if you are a watchstander on the bridge, these are really important. And I got one that has a little headband. So when I'm working on the bridge, I can do my tasks while I'm on the bridge, and I'm not ruining anyone else's night vision as well. Continuing on, a wristwatch. We have phone clocks on your phone, but most ships don't want you carrying your phone out on deck with you. So a wristwatch to keep track of time. You want to make sure you make it to coffee, to lunch. You want to know when you need to start cleaning up at the end of the day. So a watch is super important to kind of understand what's going on, because everybody runs on time, right? Continuing on. Now we're kind of getting into, I talked about the suitcase. All right. Shower shoes. Now, if you've been a mariner for a while, you know the importance of shower shoes. But when you get on a ship, if you are very fortunate, you may have your own shower. But most likely, especially if it's an entry-level position, you will be sharing a shower with one other person, not at the same time, but one other person might share that shower with you, or you might be sharing a shower with multiple mariners. And you don't know what's on their feet. You don't know what kind of fungus or bacteria is built up in those showers. Now, personally, when I'm on a ship, typically as a chief, you have your own stateroom, you have your own shower. So I would clean the shower, and I wasn't so meticulous about wearing shower shoes because I was the only one using that shower after I cleaned it and sterilized it and got it all clean and tidy. But shower shoes are super important so that you don't get athlete's foot or some kind of fungus or some other kind of stuff on there. Other things. When you check aboard a ship, quite often they may have linen available for you. However, I don't like the ship's linen most of the time. So what I do is I bring my own personal sheets, and I know that it's usually like a full-size bed. So I will use fitted sheets and not a blanket, but like the cover sheet and the bed sheet. I bring those myself, and also pillowcases. I always bring these for myself. Now they will, I know with Military Sea Lift Command, you could go talk to the supply department, JSO. Typically you can get a new pillow. Sometimes you'll show up and you'll be like, that pillow is rancid. I am not putting my head on that, you know. So you can talk to them. Typically they'll issue you new pillows and whatnot with Military Sea Lift Command. If you are catching a ship overseas, I stress even more for me to take my own linen. If it's stateside, I could usually dip over to the military exchange or out to Target or Walmart or somewhere and get some linen and get myself set up before the ship deploys or before I get into the routine. Typically with the Military Sea Lift Command. But bringing your own sheets, to me, it's money. Also, at least one towel. I try to take 2 of them just because I don't know where those towels have been. After you get off a plane and you just flew for 20-something hours, to have your own towel, your own linen, it just makes life a little bit more comfortable. Typically, ships try to have that stuff set up for you, but it doesn't always happen. And when you get in at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, nobody cares whether you have a towel or sheets or anything sometimes. They're just like, there you go, and tell us about it when everybody else gets up later. So just, it's my lessons learned over the years. I always bring those materials. So now we're getting into the medicine closet. So the medicine cabinet is super important for you as a mariner because when you get out to the ship, you can't, like, we have medical service officers with Military Sea Lift Command, but on smaller boats, you don't have an MSO. You know, the chief mate or the captain are your medical service officer. So you got to go to them for little things. And when I talk about little things, I'm talking about like aspirin or over-the-counter medicine for headaches, anti-diarrhea medicine. I always bring some of that kind of stuff. Antifungal spray for my feet, just in case, you know. I've been on ships and they're just nasty sometimes. And you're like, oh, I have shower shoes, but I still put antifungal cream on my feet at night just because But also, for the medicine cabinet, antihistamines. So just certain things that you might run into. Band-Aids. I bring a small thing of Band-Aids. And I keep it all in like a shave bag. All these little medicine things that I bring along. Also, I bring a cortisone stick. And it's just like for bug bites or insect bites. And the reason why I do this is I was on a ship. It was a small boat. We didn't have a medical service officer. And I'd gotten a spider bite or something had bit me. And my whole arm just swelled up. And it freaked me out. And the captain was like looking through this medicine book. And he was like, all right, if we take baking soda and we mix it with water and put it as a paste and rub that on there, maybe it'll help. But if this doesn't do nothing, we're going to get you off the boat tomorrow. I want you to go to a doctor. Because it was getting hard to like bend my elbow. And luckily, it took the swelling down, and whatever stinger was in me or whatever it got me, it subsided, but it scared the bejeebers out of me. So now I always bring a cortisone stick for like bites and whatnot, and also bug spray. You might be going to some third world countries where there's lots of insects. And typically on the ship, inside the ship, there's no bugs. But outside, if you're going out, going to have some drinks, be on the pier or whatever else, some bug spray. I always like to have it handy along with sunblock. If you are going to be a mariner and out working on deck, you're going to be around the elements a lot, and sunblock is super important. And along with sunblock, we're going to talk about, kind of move on to clothing, sunglasses. Super important. The reflection of the sun off the water, if you're not used to it and you're out on deck, you are going to get roasted. So it's super important that you bring sunblock and some kind of eye protection from the sun. I always bring a ball cap as well. Typically, like, ships sell ball caps and whatnot that you can buy on the ship. But I always bring my own just in case, until that ship store opens or until I can get access to get one from the ship. And I'll hold on one second. Keep these in the closet. But, like, Rappahannock, Amelia Earhart, Guadalupe, Alan Shepard, Wally Schirra, Grapple, Supply, Lenthal, Comsprawn 2. I have been on a lot of MSC ships over the years, guys, and it's all nice memorabilia. And nowadays, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it all. But ball caps are super important, and I think one of the most important items that should be in your bag with you is a good pair of boots. And it kind of depends on where you're going to work, on what type of boots you have. Like, if you're going to be in the engineering spaces, black steel-toe boots, leather, that's your number one. If you're out on deck, though, in the sun, the black boots can really heat up. So you're kind of thinking about ventilation more when you're out on deck to kind of get your feet to breathe a little bit, because warm, hot feet all day in a boot suck. And you also have to think about water protection and whatnot. So get a boot that can air out really well, that's flexible. As a watch stander, I've tried lots of different boots. For me, Doc Martens. I like Doc Martens. Some people are like, oh, why would you want a big boot like that? But to me, I always felt comfortable in them. The leather with them. But to each their own. You'll find out your best boot for you. But if you don't wear boots, I recommend you start before you get out to a ship and kind of learn about how boot safety or boot wear works. A great thing that I liked about Military Sea Lift Command was you could get a new pair of boots up to $125 reimbursement per year. And they had to be safety boots and whatnot. But I did it every year, and it's super important that you keep the receipt so that when you go back to your next ship or whatever, you can put in for reimbursement for that. So it's super important there. When it comes to clothing, layering your clothing is like the most important thing in my mind. You want to be able to take layers off or put layers on based on how cold it is. And that's kind of how I dress overall when I'm on board ship, because there's days when it's kind of brisk and you don't want to be on the bridge with a t-shirt on. You want to be able to have a sweater or a sweatshirt or something that you could take off if it gets too hot or whatever else. So layering your work clothes. And, you know, your work clothes are all based on your job. Like, my work clothes when I was a deck AB were like, I wore a lot of denim, jeans, and whatnot. And I honestly would go to the Salvation Army and find old jeans because I knew I was going to be painting. I knew I was going to get greasy. I knew it was, you know, and whatnot. But when I went to become an ops chief, now I'm in an office all day. I'm tickety-tacking out on the computer all day. I just got a pair of like cargo pants. And I'd wear cargo pants and a t-shirt or a collared shirt or a sweater over the top of it or whatever. So it all kind of depends on what kind of job you're doing. And as you get into the maritime industry, you'll find out more about what you're going to need for the spaces that you're working in. Engineers, totally different. Supply people, totally different and whatnot. Continuing on with the list, And I think this kind of gets down to the questionable items. And when I say questionable items, people need these items with them, but you need to make sure that, one, you don't pack them in your carry-on bag, right? They have to be in your checked luggage, because some of these countries you go to, you don't want to show up with certain items. Some things, no problem. For me, nail clippers, hair clippers, you always need to bring those along, because you might not have access to a barber for a while, or you might not have access, you're not going to get a mani-pedi when you pull into port. So for the most part, some of the ladies do, but for most of the guys, we want to do other stuff. Let's see, what other things? A knife. So a lot of mariners want to carry knives, and that can be a questionable item depending on what countries you're rolling into. So you want to make sure that you look into the countries you're traveling to first, because you don't want to show up and have a knife in your bag and have some kind of issue. So always look at the length of your knife, what's legal in those countries, and what's, you're going to bring. So I won't tell mariners don't bring a tool, because that's what a knife is, but don't bring it on your carry-on. That's like the common sense stuff. Some other questionable items, a boot dryer. Now, I know with like military sea lift command, they don't want you to have a whole lot of electrical items in your room. They kind of understand you're going to have a laptop, you might have a TV, you might have these things, but everything kind of has to pass anything that heats up. Now we're talking about a problem. And boot warmers, or I should say boot dryers, can start fires, and that's a big no-no. So if you do bring a boot dryer, make sure that you're putting it in a space that doesn't have carpeting, that, maybe in your bathroom, on the tile floor or whatnot, where you're not going to be worried about that additional heat, and make sure that you're using it properly and following all the safety steps. But I know if you are out on deck and you get swampy feet every day, or you're getting wet often in certain environments, that boot dryer, if you break it out and put your boots on throughout the night, it is money. So, but you need to keep it stowed away when you're not utilizing it. That's my recommendation. And I think my last kind of questionable thing is, wherever you're going, traveling in the world, you don't want to stand out too much. You're a foreigner in a foreign country, and sometimes we go to places that are not so safe. So I always tell people, don't be so American sometimes. Don't wear anything that's patriotic, too much red, white, and blue, if you know what I mean. Like t-shirts that have American logos, things like that. Just try to blend in, wear collared shirts, wear kind of what the locals are wearing, so that you don't stand out as much. You are going to stand out because you're a foreigner, but that's just that. And my last and most important tip about all these things to bring is save all your receipts from everything you ever purchased for your job. Because as a mariner, you can deduct a lot of these things off your taxes at the end of the year as tax write-offs. So everything from your documents to everything, unless your company pays for it, you can write it off. So unless you get reimbursed, like the safety boots for Military Sea Lift Command, you get reimbursed for that. Or if you upgrade your license and MSC paid you for it, well, then you can't claim that on your taxes. But if you did not receive any kind of compensation for it, you can claim it on your taxes, and it is very beneficial for you at the end of the year. So hopefully you guys get some value out of this. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll hit you on the next one. Peace.